Well, hello everyone. Welcome to a webinar by the Yale Center for Business and the Environment, a joint initiative of the Yale School of Management and the School of Forestry and Environmental Studies. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking about a new online certificate that we are launching this year on financing and deploying clean energy. My name is Stuart DeCue. I'm the Executive Director of the Yale Center for Business and the Environment. Joining me is my colleague,
I'm Vera Borgmeyer. I'm the Program Director for Clean Energy and Conservation Finance at CBAE.
And I'm going to give a little bit of context at first and talk to you a bit about the certificate, kind of where it's coming from, how does it fit the goals of the Center for Business and the Environment, more broadly at the university. Vera's going to dig in to the nuts and bolts of the certificate itself. What are the reasons behind this, the motivation, how does it function, what are some of the resources one can tap into to learn more about it on the website that we've developed for it. And then we're going to spend hopefully the bulk of time taking questions from you all about what you'd like to know more about the certificate. Where are the kind of, what are the types of questions that are going to be asked? What are the types of topics that we're going to dig into? Who are the types of expert speakers that we're going to feature? So a little bit of context about the certificate as we jump in. First, again, as I mentioned, the Yale Center for Business and the Environment is a joint initiative of the School of Management and the School of Forestry and Environmental Studies. It's been around for a little over a decade, but builds on a 40-year history of collaboration between the two schools, where Yale was the first to establish a joint degree program between a School of Management and a School of the Environment. And so this certificate program, Targeting Working Professionals, is an extension of that history and work, which I'll describe in a little bit more detail about how the area of clean energy has evolved as a focal area for the center. So we, for over a decade, have been running webinars and online courses and developed a professional website called the Clean Energy Finance Forum, which, if you haven't gone to, I encourage folks to go check out. Student-written publication working with a professional editor that goes out to thousands of professionals on a bi-monthly basis. And from this process, sort of understood and realized the demand for more educational resources in this space that was fast-growing. At the same time, we saw this huge growth of wonderful courses across Yale that targeted this area of finance and technology transitions and policy all around clean energy. And so how can we bring that together into a package where individuals who are out in the working world and who need this type of education can access it, and at the end of the program be someone who feels really comfortable with originating and kind of considering all the aspects of a clean energy project. And so this directly fits our mission as a center, which is to educate and inspire interdisciplinary leaders through pioneering business solutions to systemic environmental problems. And really this comes from a focus on how we solve these, how we address these or consider ways of addressing these systemic challenges. And how do we bridge disciplines? So the expertise in finance, the expertise in markets that comes from the connection to the School of Management, the alums, the partners that we have there, the deep expertise in systems and the environment that comes from the School of Forestry and Environmental Studies, and infusing a mix of people with expertise, so tenured faculty, lecturers and practitioners here, alumni who are working out in the field. So all of these perspectives coming together into one package to give people what we hope and what we think will be a comprehensive and targeted education in clean energy finance and deployment. So this is an evolution of the way that the university thinks about itself too. So for Yale, this is one of 3 pilot programs and online certificates that are going on at the same time. And this really strikes these goals to be the research most committed to teaching and learning, and to share Yale's intellectual assets with the world and build institutional relationships with which these new assets can be connected. I mean, the university has intellectual resources, courses, expertise that we hope can be a part of a public good. That can be a conversation where there is vast needs that Vera will go into in new capital needed to finance projects. We need all sorts of new clean energy projects coming online to meet global targets in order to mitigate the harshest effects of climate change. And this is a huge new growth opportunity of jobs and development and wealth creation that we hope gets shared broadly with all sectors of society. And so what role can Yale play in connecting individuals into that kind of rapidly changing landscape? And we feel that we're positioned well to do it in this case. And Vero's going to dig into the components and aspects of the kind of underlying motivation for this program.
So as Stuart said, I think the need for something like this, we think is essential, particularly now. So why now is the question we're asking and trying to answer in the next couple slides. And we'll go through these fairly quickly, and these will be available on the website. So if you want to refer to them, that might be a good way to do it. Otherwise, we're also recording this webinar, and we'll post it as well on the website. So why now? Most of you have heard of the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and I think it was last year, what we call the 1.5 degrees C special report came out. And that highlighted some of the things that needed to happen, or that will need to happen if we are to have a chance of staying below 1.5 degrees C increase from pre-industrial, actually no, from 1990 levels, technically. So we were trying to give you a sense of how much of an investment, what kind of scale are we talking about? People talk about the clean energy transition, and we talk about the clean energy transition, but what does it actually look like? So the annual average investment needs that the IPCC found would be necessary between 2016 and 2035 to keep below that 1.5 degree C increase is about $2.4 trillion US per year. That's an annual average, right? The annual average low carbon investment is between 1.6 and 3.8. So a lot of advocates will talk to you about the clean trillion, and that's what they mean by that. So that's plus or minus fourfold increase from current investment levels. And this slide here from that came from IRENA and CPI Climate Policy Initiative shows you the kind of breakdown globally. How does renewable energy finance happen? What does it look like? Who finances it? What kind of financing happens? Sometimes it's equity, so not entirely financing. But there are a number of things that we know, a number of things that we don't know. But what we do know for sure is that we're about an order of magnitude away from where we need to be just for clean energy deployment. This slide right here, the part that is highlighted in red is particularly telling. This is directly from the 1.5 degree C special report from the IPCC, and it shows you different scenarios that scientists are now looking at. What could the future look like if we are to get to that 1.5 target? And in all of these scenarios, and the four of them, the share of electricity that comes from renewable is between 63 and 81%. So 63 is kind of your baseline, your very bottom. We're very far from that right now. But so the good news though is that in 2017, renewable capacity additions really accounted for more than 2/3 of global net electricity capacity growth. And in New England as well, that's something that we're seeing quite a lot. If you talk to folks at ISO New England, they'll tell you most of what's coming on in the next 4 years, it's probably going to be wind. So what does that translate into? Well, that translates into jobs and jobs on a scale that is, I think, probably hard to imagine. I think if I speak about my own personal experience, trying to realizing how embedded energy was in just about everything that we do and use and things that we consume, I remember the first life cycle assessment. Looking at the first life cycle assessment results when I was a student at Yale, and just seeing graphically the size of the energy that was consumed just for creating a sweater, and it was just incredible. And if you think about that in those terms, then all of a sudden you can understand, I think, a little more clearly that clean energy transition will translate into a whole slew of jobs. And we don't yet know what those jobs are, but just a whole bunch of them that we know for sure. So how do we get there? Well, that's what the certificate is built for, and what we're developing it for is to train the workforce of that clean energy transition. There's lots of unknowns, but what we do know for certain is that we want people that can understand the interplay of the financial, technological, and socioeconomic drivers of clean energy. both the financing of it and the deploying of it. And that's why the certificate is structured around 3 main core areas, which are financing, technology, and policy. We don't think we could build a program. We didn't think we could build a program that would tackle only one of those, even though a bunch of you might be very familiar with already one of these aspects. But we don't think we have enough certainty. So it's such a massive problem, right? It engulfs so many facets of life, and such a difficult, super wicked problem to tackle that we really think we need that multidisciplinary angle and interdisciplinary angle.
Yeah, and just to supplement, what Vero's saying, I mean, the opportunity here of an order of magnitude more capital coming in, also needing to be met by an order of magnitude of more human capital and capacity. Of that we need, if that much money is going to be trained on this complex global challenge, we need smart, dedicated, purpose-driven people who are going to be connected to that as well and feel really comfortable originating the projects, participating in the financing of those projects, understanding the policy drivers that are going to be shaping them, communicating broadly to their communities and the organizations that they're in, how they can be a part of a revolution of technology and policy and finance that's already underway. But we're just at the early part of a cresting wave, and we have to push it along faster. So that we hope the people in this program can be a catalyst in many ways for sort of increasing the crescendo, increasing the focus, increasing the push toward clean energy along scientific timelines that are being laid out for the need by the global community for us to make this transition.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's a question of acceleration, and it's a question of scale, both of which we hope we can contribute to with this program. So it's a year-long program. Starts this first cohort will start in July 2019. It runs from July through May, and it's really meant for working professionals over a whole number of sectors, including finance, policy, the power market, and NGOs as well. But what we're looking for really is people who are passionate about clean energy, people who want to make a difference, and people who think what they're good at can be made even better and faster, because we need folks to really get engaged on this topic, and there is a huge opportunity for growth in the area. And when I say opportunity, I hate to use the word opportunity to talk about something like climate change. So I'm really kind of focusing that on the clean energy policy, the clean energy deployment, the clean energy development. I don't obviously think that climate change is an opportunity. It's a disaster. But we can do something about it. And that's the whole point of this program. So this is the structure. See, at the top here, you have from July 8th to August 11th. These are 2019, obviously, dates. We have what we call the Foundations course. So the Foundations is 5 weeks long. It's self-paced entirely. And it's meant for people to get a sense of the fundamental concepts of energy and finance. It's not going to be required for everybody. If you come into this program with 10 years of finance experience, you're not going to need to go through the finance part. So we won't require that you show that you know what an NPV is. We'll know that you know what an NPV is, and vice versa. If you come into this program with a lot of experience on the energy side, maybe you don't need a reminder about what a kilowatt hour is or isn't. So that will be something that's determined during the admissions process. And so if you were admitted into the program and we think you need a little bit of a boost at the beginning to bring you up to speed, then you'll do the self-paced program. And it will be the self-paced course. It will also be open to folks that are not required to take it, but just want to have access to it just because it's good content. We follow this with the on-campus week. So that's in person. It's in 2019, it will happen during the week of August 12th to August 16th. And during that week, we bring people to campus, or rather they come to campus. And during the whole week, we'll have a series of lectures and workshops from folks that are within kind of the clean energy space, and also from faculty members from both the School of Forestry and Environmental Studies and the School of Management. We'll look at the barriers to clean energy finance and deployment. We'll look at kind of more specifically what kind of transition we should be or are going for, and We'll look also at some of the basics of working in teams, because one of the things that we're hoping for people to do is throughout the program, they'll have to work in small teams on short projects from time to time. And there are good reasons for this that we can go into detail about more a little later. The core courses, what we call the core courses, start right after. So Friday, August 16th is the end of the on-campus week. On Monday, August 19th, the first module, a module is 1 week worth of material. The first module opens. There are 4 core courses: clean energy policy, technology transitions, renewable energy project finance, and innovation. So the first core course, clean energy policy, focuses on the kind of the role of policy in clean energy finance and deployment, and the links between clean energy policy and climate policy, whether we even have a clean energy or energy policy in the US, which is also an entire debate. If you were admitted into the program, we'll go over this in week 1. The technology transition course will focus on the energy models and the technological and economic challenges to the clean energy transitions. And so we'll look at a little more specifically, so what does the energy system look like right now? What are the basic technological characteristics of a wind project, a solar project? What is clean energy? These kinds of questions we'll go through. Then in the renewable energy project finance course, we really will take a deep dive on project finance, which is a non-recourse or limited recourse type of financing, which is very common for large-scale infrastructure, but more and more has been used to finance either small scale but compounded, or just utility scale but renewable facilities. And kind of we'll go through what's easy about it and what's hard about it, what makes it difficult in terms of scale and pace. And go through actual financial modeling. So if you folks are not familiar with that, then by the end of the program, you will be. And I think that's a very good skill to have, including particularly if you work on the kind of policy and advocacy part of the equation, because you really need to be able to understand the language of finance if you are to reach your goals, right, in this space. The final course is innovation. The final core course is innovation. And there we'll look at innovation in policy, in technology, and in finance, and in various models that can be applied at various stages. So this is the structure of the courses. So as we mentioned, the pre-course is self-paced. The on-campus week will be all-day sessions, in addition to sometimes nighttime homework, but not every day, don't worry. And then the core courses themselves are all structured the same way. So from module 1 to the final module from August through May, the following year, it will follow the same structure. You'll have up to 1 hour of video. And these videos are a mix of, they're primarily lectures from Yale faculty and lectures from guest experts from either industry, NGOs, the policy world. They could also be interviews. They could also be a different kind of, different format, but mostly they're lectures from Yale faculty. Then you'll have up to 1 hour of live interaction every week. On Thursdays at noon, you are required to go on to a Zoom, either a webinar like this, where you will receive a lecture, or a Zoom call with the rest of your cohort. And that can take a number of different shapes as well. It could be that it's a faculty member giving an additional lecture to complement something from that is part of the curriculum. It could be a homework assignment review, where you go through the homework and figure out what went right and what went wrong. It could be Q&A with a faculty member or with a guest speaker. It could be Q&A with a TA. Where they help you understand better some of the concepts that maybe weren't grasped fully the week prior. And then you will have up to 3 hours of assignments. And these assignments will be varied. So a number of things you're going to have to do every week. So one is right on the website. So we have a Canvas, what we call Canvas is the platform we're using, site. You'll go on to the same URL every week and kind of click through the sequence of videos and the sequence of reading. So at some point we'll say, okay, stop now, you've watched 2 videos, now go and read something and come back and watch the next video. It could be, okay, you've watched this video now, we have this question about it. What do you think about this question? And then the next video might be explaining what the answer should have been, or what some of the factors and variables that could have been taken into account are. The live sessions, so they will be held through Zoom, so this tool that we're using right now, or a similar webinar hosting tool, and can be any of the followings that we've already discussed. And smaller sessions might be scheduled in addition to the ones that are scheduled on Thursdays, based on availability of the lecturers, availability of the teaching team, and availability of the cohort as well. So these are some of the Yale faculty that are involved in the development of this course. So on the left, you have the people in charge of the core courses. On the right, you have people that are involved either in an advisory capacity, that are involved in the pre-course development, or that are involved on the on-campus week. Meaning they're either moderating a panel, or they're giving you a lecture or something like that. So on the core courses side, I think it's worth kind of spending a couple minutes just looking at who we have here, because it's a really impressive set of folks. Daniel Gross is a lecturer at Yale University. He's also a very successful private equity investor. And he teaches the Renewable Energy Project Finance course here at the School of Forestry and Environmental Studies, in addition to this online version that we are creating. And he has received consistently some of the best comments and teaching commendations at Yale. He's one of our most beloved teachers, really cares about how he teaches, and it shows. Yeah. So it's really, really wonderful. And he now has this course at, which is cross-listed between FES, so the School of Forestry and Environmental Studies, and the School of Management, which is one of the highest attended elective at both schools.
Yeah, and just on this demand point, I mean, this is one of the reasons behind why we saw the need for this program in general, as well as because student demand here at the university had risen dramatically for these courses. Across the board, we are seeing from Daniel's course to Richard Kaufman or Dan Esty, or the courses on energy systems analysis led by a triumvirate of accomplished faculty from different schools and perspectives. You know, we were just seeing this groundswell of interest amongst students on campus. The numbers kept increasing, and so this was a signal for us as well that this had to be converted into something for a different group of students who need the same information and in a different package or form.
Yeah, but who can't for some reason, or who don't want to attend a full program at Yale. So the second professor or teacher right here that we have is Richard Kaufman, who's a lecturer at the School of Management. He is also the chair of Energy and Finance in the office of New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, and has a long career in investment banking prior to that. Dan Esty is the Hale House Professor of Environmental Law and Policy at Yale University. He has 3 appointments. He teaches at the Yale Law School, he teaches at the Yale School of Forestry and Environmental Studies, and he teaches at the Yale School of Management. He's also the former commissioner of the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. So he comes at this with both a very deep academic knowledge and a very personal experience leading policy in one of the most forward-thinking states in the U.S. when it comes to clean energy policy. So it's pretty exciting to have him on board. Then the faculty, the 3 faculty at the bottom here, are all sharing the load on the technology transition course. Transitions, plural. Michael Estiglio is the Director of Energy Studies, the undergraduate research scholars, and he's also a senior research scientist at Yale. Narasimha Rao is the Assistant Professor of Energy Systems at the Yale School of Forestry and Environmental Studies, and Ron Smith is the Damon Wells Professor at Yale University of Geology and Geophysics, and also has an appointment at the Yale School of Forestry and Environmental Studies. And on the advisory side, we also have some really impressive folks on that side. Bill English, that you see up top here, he's a former member of the Board of Governors of the US Federal Treasury. Heather Tux is a professor of finance at the Yale School of Management. Rodrigo Canales is an associate professor of organizational behavior at the Yale School of Management. Ken Gillingham is an associate professor of energy economics, and Shimi Ennisfeld, who will be telling you all about those who participate in the certificate and participate in the on-campus week, will be telling you all about climate change causes and consequences, and kind of going through that part of it. So as we said, part of this is taught by faculty. Part of this is also relying on the diversity, the depth of expertise that comes in from practitioners that are connected to Yale in one way or another. So this is a list of some of the organizations that we are collaborating with in the development of this certificate program. So it's a good group of folks, some of the most advanced thinking and innovative thinking in terms of policy development, particularly looking at the Connecticut Green Bank. They've received last year or 2 years ago the equivalent of the Nobel of Policy from the Harvard School of Kennedy School of Government. Then we have folks like the Covenant Solar. They're a small outlet that focuses on using solar as a tool for development, particularly on native lands and for native communities. So it's really kind of a breadth of approaches and a diversity of perspective that I don't think you can find in too many more places.
Yeah, and this is really something where, I mean, this is on display on campus every day or every week. You know, at lunchtime today, we had the Director of Development of Apex Clean Energy giving 50 students in the room a view of how the development process is going to change and what their view is on how it'll change over the course of the next 5 years. And this is really where you can open up the conversation into where do things need to go. Practitioners who are at the front lines of figuring out how this deployment works and kind of feedback those insights and questions and thoughts into the community of learners that we'll have online. So we view this as a critical component of how folks can take full advantage of the network that we're building. Not only the 75 people that are going to be participating in the program in the first cohort, but the kind of broader group of people that we'll be able to draw into the certificate.
And on that point, something to note that may be interesting to folks is that we'll be developing some specific tools for people to keep in touch after the certificate. So as a participant to the certificate in financing and deploying clean energy, since people will be working professionals, they won't be Yale students, they won't have access to resources like the career development office that you would have if you did a full scale, excuse me, full-time program like an MBA or an MEM. However, that doesn't mean that you're left to your own devices in terms of networking. We will build a platform specific for people that graduate from our program to keep in touch, to exchange ideas, to exchange career opportunities, to exchange business opportunities if that were the case, but mostly to build connection and to continue collaborating in the future. So we figured we'd show some of the links. A lot of information is available on our website, which is cbay.yale.edu/certificate, and that will redirect you to the right place. The site being pretty dense, we put a lot of thought into it, and there's a lot of information. We thought we'd take you through some of the most interesting, that we think the most interesting or most relevant for you guys at this stage. So this page right here so this is the curriculum outline. It shows you on a week-by-week basis what we will be doing during the core courses. So as we said, every core course is 8 weeks long, so you have eight modules in each of them. And if you want more details about what specifically you'd be learning during this program, this is where you will find it. So that's one thing. The next will be if you need a reminder about the structure and where things fall in terms of the workload, you would find it here. So I want to show you over here, you have, so this about page gives you a broad general information. And if you click on curriculum, this drop-down menu kind of shows up. Corporate structure is where we are, which shows you everything that you would be doing on a day-to-day, week-by-week basis. Then the core course content has this link to, it's got a general introduction over here of the 4 courses. It also has this link to the document that we were just looking at over here. So going back to this side, if you keep going, people is updated frequently as more people get on board with our faculty members. And at the bottom, you have actually more details on some of the guest experts that are involved in this program. So that gets updated as we keep developing the program, more people come on board. We try to keep that pretty current, but so make sure you keep looking at this. Then the next one over here is important dates. And I think, well, it's all in the title, important dates, the dates that are important. But what might be useful for you is that there's a printable version of the page right here that takes you to this neat little document, which you can print out and keep on your desk or whatever. And then all of the information you might possibly want about applications and tuition is right here on this applying to the certificate and tuition kind of sub item. So the application system is very easy to navigate. You'll see if you decide to apply, it will take, when we tested it, it took me less than 10 minutes if you go through the process and prepare with some of the information that we have here. The application deadline, the priority admissions deadline is March 7th, which is in 18 days right now. And just
I think to focus on this point for a second, this is the first year of the program. We're looking to build an excellent cohort and folks who really contribute and engage and build a network and contribute to the success of the program in its first year. We've already been incredibly and happily surprised by the number of applicants that we've received up until this point. So for anyone online who's considering applying, highly encourage you to apply by March 7th for the priority deadline. In the way a number of applications that we are getting and how it's trending, we are going to have in excess of the number that we would need by that time. So we are going to really prioritize evaluating and looking at that at an early stage as possible. So if you're thinking about it, please get your application in before the March 7th deadline.
So what we mean by priority admissions deadline is that we guarantee that the system will keep open, the admission system will keep being open until that date, which is in 2019, March 7th. After that date, once we start reviewing applications, the admissions committee will start admitting people. And once the target cohort size is reached, the application system will be will terminate. So the final application deadline that you can see on the site is May 19th, but don't go by that date because we most likely will be closing the application system before that. We have in excess of 300 applicants right now. So we really do encourage you to get going quickly. It's only 18 days left, and it's a very easy application system. So I wanted to show you this at the bottom here. You have a list of all your application material, but also right here, there is a what we could call the application readiness checklist. If you go through this, and organize your material and prepare your applications using this document right here, it should be really easy then to move on to the online part of the applications, which is accessible right here at the top. Now, at the bottom, where this sub-item is tuition. So the tuition for the program is $8,500 this year, this 2019-2020 academic year. And we have a few scholarships that we will make available. We have very few, so we encourage folks again to apply early, so we can review these applications at the same time as we are reviewing the scholarships requirement. At the bottom here, you have a link, but you will be sent if your employer is not financing or funding your program, then you will be receiving an email with that link once you submit your final application. If you need help to talk to your employer about the values of this program and why they would be potentially interested in funding it for you, we created this simple email for your employer. Obviously, every situation is going to be different, but if you click on this little link right here, this will download a document that has some sort of a template for you guys to be able to facilitate that conversation. The last thing, so we talked about this. The last thing I want to say is that we at CBA are having a tremendous time creating this program for you. We're really having a blast. It's so much fun getting to dig really deep into these issues and teasing out what the most important parts are, working with the faculty members that are so excited to get this started, and all of the guest experts. We've had a tremendous response to this certificate program. We're hoping to set the course for the future of online education at Yale as part of one of 3 pilot programs, as Stuart mentioned. So I think, I'll stop here. I don't know if you have any final thought before we move on to questions.
Yeah, I would just say, building on Vero's point, this is supported by the Yale Center for Teaching and Learning at Yale, which is the academic home of excellence in teaching. And they're the ones who are kind of guiding us in the content creation and then developing this. So how do we take what's the best in the classroom here and translate it to an online format? Vero, as she speaks, I hope you can kind of feel and understand the depth of expertise and passion for this. This is a international project finance attorney who got a degree from the School of Forestry and Environmental Studies, who is deeply connected to this topic and knowledgeable in it, and is going to be the person that, if you fall back on a question on content, will be the kind of navigator, director, and the individual who can help steer those conversations and connect you to the right people. And we've got this, and I want to just emphasize this point on the community that will be built of 75, which we hope will be a powerful one, but also this enthusiasm that Vero's mentioned from everyone we've reached out to. These are people who are who are pioneers and folks who've been at the early stages of developing these markets for a long time and are now seeing them come to fruition and are incredibly excited about the opportunity to synthesize that for a broader group. And one that can then have a larger impact on how we meet a whole set of global challenges through a massive technology transition. So we're having a lot of fun, and we're really excited to answer your questions. So here we have a couple online. So the first one comes from Jesse. Thank you so much. Hi there. To what extent would you say the course is focused on small-scale decentralized energy systems?
Well, there's some focus on small scale. So a lot of it is focused on decentralized energy systems, just because that's the way the system is going, right? The energy system in the US is seeing a lot more of those decentralized systems. And that's what's creating such a challenge for the ISOs throughout the country, right? To manage, especially when it's not dispatchable. But we'll be talking about those, but on the technology side, we'll be talking about kind of the underlying technologies, whether you're utility scale or small scale, right? So it's not so much a question of scale as it's a question of understanding the science behind what makes a turbine create energy. How do you get what's the photoelectric effect? How do you get from the array of sunshine to an actual current in your house? But we will also definitely be talking about the challenges in integration of those decentralized systems and the challenges in planning from a utility side. The next question we have is, what role will, that's from Joe, what role will energy efficiency and electric vehicles play in the certificate? That is an excellent question. So energy efficiency is definitely something we want to talk about. We want to talk about it because it's, you know, it's the quickest bang for your buck, right? It's the very bottom of what you can do. It's the very easiest of what you can do in terms of effectiveness. However, it's very difficult to finance for a number of reasons that we'll go into in the certificate. As far as electric vehicles are concerned, we will have, we'll mention it, we'll talk about it some in module 8 of the technology transitions course. We'll talk about it as well in terms of using electric vehicles as a tool for integration. So, you know, what the Internet of Things can do, for instance, for using the batteries of electric vehicles that are just charging up at your house during times when you may need that extra boost because you have a lot more intermittent distributed electricity coming online. So these aspects we'll talk about, but transportation is not going to be a core focus of the certificate at this stage, just because we have to make choices essentially. I see in the future, I would love to have something that is solely focused on the transportation aspect of the clean energy transition, because it's such a huge part. I mean, in the US now, it's the largest share of emissions is from transportation. So I do see that as something very, very important to tackle.
Yeah, and those energy efficiency questions as well. I mean, you'll be hearing from people who are the kind of folks who started or set up some of the most prominent, like property assessed clean energy or PACE financing programs. A blend of solar and efficiency, and folks who've like figured out how to create markets at scale for commercial buildings and industrial facilities using this. So it's something that I think you'll get integrated on a number of levels. Next question, we have a question from Blessings. In terms of eligibility, are you also looking to take students from Africa and developing countries? Absolutely, we are. A number of the examples and policy examples in particular we'll be using will reflect in a North American context, but a lot of the lessons and a number of the components will be broadly applicable in whatever country you are in terms of how you're developing projects, the kind of financial modeling behind these, the risk assessment associated with them, the technology underlying them, kind of thoughts for innovating. There are a number of things that may be transferable. So absolutely encourage international applicants for this, and our sincere hope is down the line that we can be looking at where we can target policy courses for specific contexts other than North America.
Yeah, and when you think about some of the courses, obviously the one that is going to be the most US specific is the policy course, right? I mean, to some extent, technology transition will also be somewhat focused-ish on the US because of some of the specificities of the power market here, but mostly something that will be most salient in the policy course. And the nice thing about the way we've structured the policy course is that it's not meant to give people answers about what policy X or Y or Z should be, but it's meant to have people think creatively about institutional design. And these lessons that we're learning in the US about some of the things that we should not be doing and that haven't worked in the past, that's applicable everywhere. So yeah, we're definitely hoping to have a slew of people from all over the place.
And we have another content question. We have a couple of questions on kind of scholarship application and skills and the application process. But Richard asks, will the course cover carbon pricing? And we're lucky enough to have one of the guest experts is the person leading Yale's carbon pricing initiative. So for the past 4 years now, Yale has been implementing an internal carbon pricing charge here. So we've got kind of data and evidence in practice of how does carbon pricing work at a micro level inside of an organization, university, and then a number of the faculty that you'll be hearing from and people that will be participating, whether it's Dan Esty or Ken Gillingham or a number of other folks, are research scholars, practitioners, or others who've thought in depth about the implementation and the kind of pricing that needs to go into this. So there will be something that I think is a thread that will be drawn throughout components of the course. And in particular, when you get to the side of innovation and where does innovation need to take place, what would be the impacts of a price on carbon in terms of the deployment and the finance and the kind of policy structures that all govern this.
And also, so if you look at that first document we showed you, which is on the curriculum core course content page, you have a breakdown, right? That's week by week. And you will see if you go into the clean energy policy, I think it's modules 4 and 5. Don't quote me on this, maybe 6, but it's in the middle. And it's one of the core of the meatiest part of the clean energy policy course are about carbon taxes, carbon fees, and cap and trade programs, and what we know about them, what we don't know about them, what works, what doesn't work, and the impact of pricing carbon both from an economic standpoint and from a policy standpoint, and obviously how those two interact. We have in the works, and I'm not entirely sure, this is not confirmed yet, but if it doesn't work for this cohort, it might work for the next one. We're also trying to build into the curriculum a simulation that actually the person who Stuart was just mentioning, who runs the Yale Carbon Charge Project, was in charge of bringing to campus here, and we tested it. It's a carbon trading simulation, and we think it would be a really fun game for people to play over the kind of long term of the certificate. So we're trying to figure out how to build that inside of our curriculum as it's designed right now.
Do you want to go into the skills, qualities, and traits, and kind of that we're looking for in applicants?
Yeah. So. I think so. Who's asking? Miles is asking what skills, quality, and traits.
Jesse's also asking about that.
And Jesse's also asking about that. So we're not thinking. We're thinking about the way we're thinking about this is that the cohort that we're trying to build is going to be built with very, very diverse backgrounds, right? So people coming in with 1 year of experience, people coming in with 20 years of experience, people coming in with 35 years of experience, and from very diverse and different kind of sectors, people from the public sector, private sector, nonprofit, and then people from all sorts of cross functions, right? So it's not so much the kind of skills that we're not looking for specific skills. We're looking for an interest. We're looking for an appetite to learn. We want people who are really gung-ho about learning, and we want people who are passionate and who can show how they will, in practice, use that knowledge that they'll be learning from the certificate courses. So we can't give you kind of like, these are the criteria for the skills we're looking at, because it's not so much how it would be how a traditional kind of MBA or MEM or one of a more traditional kind of degree is built, and you'd be looking for specific types of skills. But in our case, we're really looking at going across sectors and to get different parts of the clean energy world to kind of collide a little bit. So we want people to not have the same set of skills. So that's how I would answer that question. And then I think Jesse was also asking about the criteria for scholarships. And again, same answer on that part. We're looking to balance the cohort as much as possible. We do understand that people who come from the finance community or from kind of the heftier utility side of the applicant pool will have an easier time finding funding for this. People who come from either emerging markets or who come from just the NGO space in general might have fewer opportunities to find funding for this. So that's kind of how we'll balance this. But this will all be merit-based. So in the application, in a scholarship application, you have just one question, which I will let you discover once you actually apply. But it's we're not looking for rocket scientists. We're looking for people who can apply things in practice and make the learnings something concrete. We have this ginormous task ahead of us, right? How do we tackle climate change? And that's what we want to do. We want to help you guys get out there and be more effective at it.
Great. We've got a couple other questions. So on the role of nuclear and its role in the clean energy transition, and program discussing community solar, and folks looking at working in the oil and gas sector and interested in the clean energy transition. One of the things that Vera has done incredibly well about constructing this is that you're going to be able to get into some of these great energy debates within the course. That you're going to be able to look at, well, what does it look like for us to reach these goals with different types of technology, and how do they need to be incorporated? And be able to hopefully in the most objective and engaged way dig into those, to unpack any emotion associated with them. Look at how this is going to affect us going forward, and be able to sort of see scenarios and positions for how this could work. And that's, that can range anything from, the kind of small scale nuclear ideas that are out there to the community solar, those nascent programs of how are we creating and figuring out ways for people to access, invest in, become a part of the clean energy transition and revolution, whose homes or lifestyles or however aren't suited for it within their, the way that their housing situation works. So it's going to really run the gamut of those, and we hope to give as people as broad a view as possible. And to that end, we're bringing in people from both ends of the spectrum. So we're going to have there's one module particularly that's called Great Debates that Stuart was mentioning. And that will bring together, or within one module, people from industry and people from the advocacy world. And you'll hear from both sides and try to understand what arguments are for or against one particular technology, and then define for yourself what clean energy is. And does it make sense to call nuclear clean energy? Does it make sense to call hydro clean energy? Does it make sense to call natural gas clean energy? And these are very, very complicated questions with a lot of different ways of answering them. And our goal here is not to force an answer down a funnel. Our goal is to create, to make you an informed actor. And that's, if we've achieved that, then we've achieved what we set out to do. Yeah, and there's a couple of questions, Joe and others, talking about the plans to keep people involved and connected in the certificate program going forward. So Vero mentioned this platform, Alumni Fire, which we'll plan to implement and use, which provides a community that the professors, the TAs and TFs, the alumni, and others who participated in the program can be connected to the cohort of 75 students that we'll start with. And then every year we will add those new cohorts to that platform, building up that group into a large size quite quickly. And that platform offers all sorts of flexibility and opportunities to share jobs, see career experience, connect organizations, work on projects. We also hope after the first year to be able to connect all these students back into the live events and programming that we would have on campus. So an annual conference where the cohorts could come back and convene at Yale to kind of think about the transitions and the opportunities and where they can kind of continue to build and enhance that network. And so that's something that will start after the first year of the cohort. And we hope to kind of continue to broaden and expand these programs, so you'd see that conference get quite large quite quickly. Let's see, we've got a bunch of other questions here that came in. Let's see, anything that we didn't capture, Vero? I think one of the questions is, hold on. One of the questions is, where do I find more information about this? If you are looking for
if you're looking for more information about the curriculum itself, I would turn to the website. I would turn to that document. If you have specific questions, for instance, right now we are trying to figure out whether some specific types of AmeriCorps awards can be used to pay for this. So these things we haven't figured out yet. So you should reach out to the email address that is on this slide. So it's cbey.certificate@yale.edu, and someone on our team will try to address those as quickly as possible. And the other place I would look to on a regular basis is our FAQ page of the website. So that gets updated every time someone asks us a question that is actually relevant to the rest of the potential cohort and to applicants. We make sure to post those answers right there, and we make sure to be as specific as possible. So make sure you keep checking that page out, and I think that's about it. Is there anything else? I think we're just about almost out of time. It's 3:55. If you have any parting thoughts.
Let's see. Let's see, one more question came in. So we had some on the networks built here during the training to advance renewable technologies and financing in the developing world. So as we talked about before, the network that we're building within this, the applicant pool, the kind of connections that we hope happen here will be applicable both in a North American context as well as in other contexts. So we think that a lot of the things that will be taught here will be quite transferable, and we'll also highlight and think about and bring in experts who would be able to pull in expertise and perspective from other geographies as well. Another one that came in, which I think is a really interesting question, is, this relates to the applicant pool that Vero talked about, is people wanting to offer their expertise into a program like this, into a cohort and peer group. And one of the things that we have is, if we have some folks applying with 20 years of finance experience, and if we have folks who are applying who have a PhD in energy technology or in energy economics, and they're seeing a tree and they're looking to connect to the forest here within this program, that is exactly the type of thing where the online flexible modules and the ability for us to kind of convene these Zoom discussions can offer us the potential opportunity to show the folks in the network who would be participating in that expertise. So the peer group, both during the on-campus week and then during discussions throughout the year, can get to know where these resources and pockets of expertise are that they can connect back to as they continue on in their origination or their changes in policy or the shift in their organization that they're looking to enact. So yes, absolutely. We want to make sure that the cohort itself is a resource for kind of continued learning and pushing each other. And at the end, a question came in on the qualification that you get. So
that's a very good question. So a reminder that this is not a degree, and people often ask, so what's a certificate? And there's been an ample debate, as you can imagine, at Yale about what a certificate may or may not be. In this case, all it means is that you will get a piece of paper that tells you you've completed the requirements of this program. The requirements of this program are pretty stringent. They're not stringent in the sense that we're asking you to commit the same kind of level of time and money as you would for a degree program, but they're stringent in the sense that you have to comply with, you have to follow through the entire program. You have to come to the on-campus week. You have to keep your grades up. So it is still a Yale program, and what having a certificate tells you and tells your employer and anyone else that you would care to show it to is that you've successfully completed that. It's meant for people to have bite-size, easily digestible bits of information. It's not meant to drown people. We're not here to make things more difficult. We're here to make sure the information gets conveyed in the most effective and efficient way possible to the people that want and need it. So at the end of the day, what the qualification is that you've gone through the program, you've gotten connected to 75 or 74 other folks that share a similar passion for clean energy, and hopefully you're able to turn that into something practical. And the year after, we'll follow up with you guys and be like, okay, what have you done with it? What learning did you pass on? What specific thing did you achieve? What piece of paper did you put in front of your boss and say, this is what I want to do. This is how I think we could be making things a little different in my organization. So that's what we're looking for, and that's what we're hoping you'll get at the end.
Yeah, great. And we just want to, thank everyone for the time and all the wonderful questions. I think we've gotten to every question, or almost every question that was asked today. We're at time for the webinar, but we're thrilled by the level of interest, by the detailed nature of the questions, by the engagement that we're seeing. And really just, thank you for your time and attention today. And we sincerely hope that you apply to the program. That if you know of others in your network who you think would benefit from it, that you pass it along to them and draw them in as well. Because this, the kind of nature of a program like this, we think the 75 people that make up the first class are going to go an incredibly long way to making sure that the program has a sustainable and that catalytic effect that we're looking for. The people that go into this and their passion for the topic, their engagement, their ability to listen to each other, to push each other, to connect to the faculty, and to be a part of a community that can be catalytic, as I said before, in driving new policies, new approaches toward deploying more clean energy is what we're looking for. So we view the applicants as partners in being able to push this forward. And we're really looking forward to reviewing the applications, because we think it's going to be an incredible group of people who are going to apply. Yeah,
I couldn't have said it better. I think it's a good place to stop. We're really excited to have people apply. So get your fingers on your keyboard and let's get going. And thank you. I want to echo what Stuart said. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to listen to us blabber on about how excited we are, because we really are excited. So thanks again, and we'll hopefully hear from you guys soon. We will post this webinar on the website very soon, and you will also have access to the slides if you've registered, which you have had to do to attend the webinar. Thanks again.